हे गाइस, स्वागत है आप सबका मेरे चैनल सुनो कहानी में वेयर वी वर रीडिंग शिमला अफेयर बाय सृष्टि चौधरी। इनकी 2 अदर बुक्स भी हैं जो कि मैंने ऑलरेडी अपलोड कर रखी है, सो आप लोग वो भी जाके एक बार सुन सकते हैं, पढ़ सकते हैं, जो भी आपका मन करे। एंड मेरे चैनल पे और भी अदर्स बुक्स हैं, सो आप देख सकते हैं। बहुत ही पॉपुलर और रिकमेंडेड बुक है और बहुत सारी अच्छी बुक्स हैं। तो बुक्स कोई भी ख़राब नहीं होती है, बस अपना अपना नज़रिया होता है। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं। चैप्टर 17। Charles stood as stiff as a stone, glaring angrily into the distance, his arms behind his back, until I was close enough. Then he turned his head and gave me such a look of betrayal that I had to stare back defiantly. What right did he give to act like I was betraying him? What did he know about me or my circumstances? The sacrifice that all of us were making in the quest for our freedom. How could he possibly understand the worth of this freedom, freedom that he never had to crave? By which prerogative was he looking at me with the accusations, as if I was personally betraying him by standing up for my rights, for something that I should have had inherently? He opened his mouth to say something as we approached the hotel, but the heart of it all stopped him. He looked down and my heart melted. Perhaps that was exactly the problem. He didn't know what it was to be me, to be us. He didn't know the sacrifice that it involved, the danger of it all. I wondered what would happen. What if he arrests me on the spot and takes me to the police station, or worse, to the viceroy himself? My mind froze, not knowing what lies I could tell him, until Afrin and Begum Jan caught hold of my arm, stopping me. Say the truth, Afrin said with a meaningful nod. As much as you need to trust me, it will work better than a lie. Begum Jan grabbed my hand. Ask him why Bisan is interested in a civil war. Why does he care so much, of all people? Maybe we could all discuss this, Noor started to say. No. Noor, let me go for a walk with Mr. Naylor. Would you allow me to do that? Perhaps I would be able to appeal to Charles' better nature. Noor nodded, reluctantly trusting me. I walked to him in a daze. His gaze was hard, cold, and distant, and he looked everywhere except at me. If you could let me explain, I started. He finally let himself look into my eyes, and taking that as an encouraging sign, I convinced him to come for a walk under the watchful eyes of my sister. I led him away from the hotel. We walked in silence for a bit, and instead of taking the road down the hill towards the town, he walked towards the forest. I remembered how we had been there together all those weeks ago, when he had offered me his whiskey and I had sipped it, telling him I was the daughter of an opium merchant, as if he had read my mind. He spoke up. I have that file you asked me for, the one about this ship. You can have a look at it. Was that an invitation for peace? The evening sun glittered through the gaps of the branches of a tree as we walked through, and the light danced off his head. The buzz of resting insects played in the background. I wanted to reach out to him, keep my hand on his arm, look into his eyes with warmth and reassurance. Yet all my hopes were dashed when I dared to glimpse at him. When he turned to me, his face was glazed and with an incense so foreign that all my affection got caught in my throat and rendered me paralyzed. So, do I still have to ask what's going on? His voice was devoid of emotion. Charles, are you a spy? A spy for the Congress, or perhaps even hired by the Germans? The idea was ridiculous yet tempting. How exciting would it be if I had been hired as a spy to find classified information that would save us? How glamorous it sounded, as if from a film or novel. I had to disappoint him with the truth that I was just a simple girl fighting for her home. I decided to heed Begum Jan's advice and change tracks. What is Beeson standing in the administration? How is he perceived? He looked at me, befuddled that I had asked, perhaps even shocked that I had not referred to a Beeson as Lord. I could see he was trying to think if he should answer the question. Charles took some time, very ambitious, cutthroat. Rather, why? I took a long, deep breath and told him about the Civil War, expecting his shock and concern, but he did not believe me, not even remotely. It's impossible, he said flatly. I was outraged that he had dismissed me. So, did my word mean nothing? Beeson would never. It's beyond imagination. A decorated officer of Raj would never break ranks in this monstrous way. I am sorry, Nalini, but what you are suggesting this is inconceivable. How can you doubt me like that? I heard every word of it from my own ears. This man from London Hastings has come down here to plan a civil war with Beeson. They are well on their way to incite in it in other cities and tighten their control over India. They need India more than ever now with the war. And the vices gave his blessing to all of this. Reluctantly, but ultimately, yes, he agreed that it is an effective strategy to retain British hold, which is eroding by the day. If you had not noticed, by the way, you must have misunderstood Nalini. They must have been talking about something else and you understood it as a civil war. I didn't misunderstood. How do you know that? Nobody would, whoever misunderstood something would it at the time and say, yes, I have misunderstood the situation. I was cursed that he thought me incapable of understanding a political conversation. The evening light showed on us, flittering in through the branches of the trees. You don't believe me? Yes, he said without hesitation. Absolutely, I think you are very so roughly mistaken, perhaps even using the preposterous story to deflect attention from why you were there in the first place. I could never make something like this up. It is much beyond the limits of my thoughts and knowledge of the subject. He grunted and incredulity. Why were you there? Who told you that this meeting was happening at Bison's residence? How do you know? And your sister even get in? It was that an important meeting was to take place. Disbelief was written on his face. Word on the street? No, really. Everybody knew about this man coming from London. And Charles, believe me, these things get around. Remember, I had asked you if you knew who was the special guest coming into town. A friend and I knew a way to get in, so we decided to find out. What way? I told him about the sadhu. At least here, he did not challenge me, having known about the ritual too. When I had finished telling him the whole story, lying as little as possible and just omitting the parts I did not want to tell him, like the Simla circle or our plan for the Viceroys. He seemed a bit less shocked. I know you are hiding a lot more from me. I could arrest you right now. I floated up in anger. Well, do it. What are you waiting for? He started at me. Stared at me with an intensity that I had not supposed possible, his blue eyes full of endless ocean that threatened to drown me. Why were things always so complicated between us? Was it too much to ask that the man I fall in love with to like me back without skin, rank, and entire empire coming between us? It served me right for not marrying the nice Parsi man and living the life of a good woman when I had the chance to. Charles grabbed my hand and pulled me towards him, but any notions of the moment turning romantic were immediately destroyed as he started leading me out of the forest. If you are taking me to jail already, I said, my heart suddenly lightened as I realized that if he wanted to take drastic action against me, he would have done so already. I was now sure that, despite the seriousness of the situation, Charles would not betray me without knowing the whole truth. Don't think I won't tell everyone about your obsession with Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz. He turned around. You think you are free now, Miss Mystery, allowed to make your jokes? What's the point of make my jokes if they don't cut through your anger? He said nothing to me as we went on, only dropping my hand when he was sure that I was following him. Now it was rather dark and I felt more at ease. In town, we walked further away from each other than we had in the forest, and he led me up an unfamiliar path. I realized he was taking me to his home. Charles, sorry, careful now. You would not want your future wife seeing us and getting upset. I said, all boundaries forgotten. I don't know why I felt that I could address that matter of Eliza May in this reckless and frankly shameless manner yet. Apart from being scared that Charles had discovered me spying, I was also mad at him. If he was so keen on marrying Eliza May, then why did he always talk to me like I was so special? What do you mean? We entered his house, and I looked around, sure that Charles had not made a single change since moving in here and being allotted this place. It was a typical Simla cottage reserved for English officers coming up for the summer. I doubted he spent any time here. Don't pretend ignorance. I know you are getting married to Eliza May. But when I saw his face, I knew he did not mean finging ignorance. Why would I get married to Eliza? But who else then? Had he been seeing more women in town, or perhaps someone back in England? It need not surprised me so much. After all, he was a young, handsome bachelor with a great prospects. Mother would quite up to their daughters meet Charles. Perhaps he had been scouting, seeing the best he could get, and just could not stop being charming and flirtatious with everyone he met, including me. Oh, not her. Who is it then? Mary, Anna, Bridget, Bride. Isn't that what all British women are named? He shook his head as if shaking off a particularly cumbersome fly. Apparently, this had shocked him more than anything else he had found out today. What in the world are you talking about? Why would I marry Annie, Mary, or Anne? Oh, stop it, Charles. Are you forgetting I was there today? I heard you. You said that you want to marry her if she would have you. Whoever sees. It took him a moment to understand what I was talking about, and then he held his head in his hands, his mouth forming a little. He leaned against the wall, arms behind his back, head hung low. When he looked up, he looked defeated. Perhaps I had pushed it too far. Perhaps he did not want to talk about his private life, especially now here with me. I'm sorry that I meant you, he said simply. The walls around me started spinning, and like him, I too felt the need on hold on to something. So I steadied myself, my heart thumped widely, quite outside the control of my body. I could not bear to look at him, and with difficulty I turned away, looking around at this classic, unremarkable house, trying to steady my breath. The lamps cast a dim glow in the quietness, and there was only silence except for the verge of crickets. We stood that way for what turned to minutes, what would soon turn to hours. My face felt hot, my eyes refusing to look anywhere near where he stood. His confession tortured me more than anything he had said so far, and I almost switched back to talking about how I had sneaked into Bison's house. After what could I have been eons? I heard him walk towards me. I wondered whether I should flee. The door was 8 or 9 steps away from me. If I made a run for it, there was a good chance I could get away. I had always been a fast runner. Nalini, his hand was warm, and in response to that simple touch, I turned towards him. I still did not have the courage to look up at his face, but my hands pressed his own there on. Our fingers interlocking, pulling us closer. I had never been so close to him. I had never been so close to any man. My face was against his chest, and I still refused to look up. Instead, I leaned forward and breathed in, and it felt as if I should have been there all along. He put his arm around my back, and the other one at the nape of my neck. My head turned up of its own accord. His face was incomprehensible. His eyes betrayed a battle, and his cheeks were flushed. His grips around me tightened, and nothing mattered anymore. None of it made any difference except the warmth that enveloped us. He kissed me. Time stood still, or perhaps dissolved altogether, but who cared about it anyway? His mouth was on mine, and my hands on the sides of his face. His hands were on my back, one moving up into my hair, the other clutching my side. He kissed me impatiently. I surged for his lips, tracing my hands down his neck, and we stumbled towards the room next to us, failing in the darkness. He held my face and kissed me again, a question inscribed in his breath. A sigh escaped my lips, and I was moved by its longing. I pulled his face to my neck, as our bodies pressed into each other. My willing body answered the question in his eyes. In a few days, I would be a fugitive if I was not already dead. It was only fair I was allowed this moment of love and passion. I knew that God would not begrudge me that. We fell on the bed. A calm persisted in the room, augmented by the dim glow of a candle on Charles' nightstand, only light after we had bumped our heads against each other, collapsing in a fit of laughter. The seats beneath us were soft and cool, and I reached for the sari that now lay discarded at the edge of the bed. There was an almost airy quietness now, widely contrary to the earlier sound of pounding hearts, so loud that house threatened to shake off its foundation. I wrapped the sari around myself, and Charles held my wrist, stopping me from leaving. I am in love with you. My heart stopped, and I thought I would drawn deep inside a sea of bliss and despair, of tenderness and sadness. I must go. Stay, he said. How was he to know that if it were in my hands, I would abandon everything and follow this simple request and live the rest of my life right here? A few seconds went by in silence, and he got up suddenly and walked to his desk. Perhaps what we just did had made my eyes even more biased, because he looked more beautiful than ever, his hair ruffled and his bare shoulders clearly broad and lean. He picked up a file and came back to me, his knees on the ground and arms around my waist. What did you find out? I asked as I quickly opened it. He signed, the SS Napier, the boat that sailed from Bombay to Karachi on the day that you had asked me for was a freighter. What's a cargo ship? A ship carrying goods and not passengers. It caught fire that day, exploded and sank before it could make it to Karachi. I stared into his eyes, which looked back at me sincerely, but it appears as if the ship did not catch fire. It was set on fire with explosive, or perhaps there were explosive on the ship that caught fire. They never found out exactly how it happened. There was an inquiry, but it was filed away and snuffled in a quite a suspicious manner. But it is now known quietly, certainly, that the boat was blasted off. It said so in the documents titled classified. Can I have the file? No, he answered. It's confidential. I stared at him and then attempted to get up. Once again he stopped me. Was your father on the ship? He asked. I remained quiet. I know you are hiding things, he said, and now it pained me even more to hurt him. But I did what I was doing, and more than anything, what I was about to do. Despite everything he said, and I assumed he meant what I had just passed between us. I will not let it go, especially because of everything. You know what kind of man I am. I will not let it go. I want to be with you for all my life, but you will have to tell me what's going on. I smiled and ran my fingers through his hair. He bent forward and kissed me again. I know what kind of man you are, I said, and with this I stood up. If he thought that our path to marriage would now be easier, obvious, Even he was wrong. I would run away with him the next day and agree to a life of no position in a heartbeat. But would Charles feel the same when he finds out that I, the woman he wanted to marry, would be responsible for the death of Bisley's? This time when I walked to the door, he did not stop me, merely followed me silently. You said you are in love with me, I said without turning back. I realized my voice was shaking. I was not lying. Well, if you must know, I am in love with you too. And if the love that we bear for each other means anything to you, if the time that we spend together so far has brought any happiness to your life, I turned towards him. You will not come back to my hotel. What? He looked entirely confused and I did not blame him. Perhaps he had expected that I asked him to let me off, to not question me further, to not tell anyone else what he had found out about me today. You will not come back to the hotel ever again, not even for official duties, not to the ball. You will not set foot inside my hotel from this day on. Remember, Charles, you said you loved me. If it is so, then you must respect this. You will not come back to where I live ever again. With those parting words, I ran away from his cottage. I did not stop until I was halfway up the hill, panting to the welcoming side of my home. I entered the lobby to find music playing on the gramophone as a guest had their drinks around the sofas. I seemed to have walked into a different world, one where I had imagined everything that had happened with me and Charles. Khosali ji greeted me as I walked past, and I nodded blankly, walking to the dining room where my family sat for their meal. Noor, Afreen, and Ratan Babu all got up from the dining table when they saw me. How was it? What did he say? Should we run? Nalini. I could not respond. The picture perfect image of my family sitting together on the table imprinted itself on my mind. Charles was who I loved, but I could be certain that this scene would never include the two of us together, sitting with my family to enjoy a simple dinner. It's fine. He wants more answer, but he is not pushing it for now. What? No, it can't be that simple. Ratan Babu looked at me questioningly. Still, we cannot be safe now. He suspects something. I would not be surprised if. I interrupted, looking directly at Noor. The ship, the fighter, you know, it's the one with goods, not people. The SS Napier that day. Noor's face switched from confusion to concern. She stepped forward and held my hand slightly. What about it? The one he was on. Father, wasn't he? That's what he said in the letter, said Afrin, also coming closer. Are we sure he was on the ship? It carried things, not people. He had done it before, Nu said. Remember, he was not allowed to leave Bombay. He used to get in that cargo ferries to Karachi secretly, I suppose. But that day he told us he would be on it. I broke down. The ship did not sink. It was set on fire. There were explosives. He was killed. He was killed by the British because they knew he was on the ship and they murdered him. I remembered my father's wrinkled, hopeful eyes that always seemed to look far out in the future, that seemed to hold a vision much beyond what any of us could fathom. I remembered his bright smile that renewed itself every morning, no matter what passed in the day. But most of all, I remembered his words of encouragement because they gave me the feeling that I could lean back and relax and that everything would be all right. I called on memories to remind myself how luck and fate had conspired to bring us to the point at which we now stood. Yet I knew that no matter how differently it might appear, depending on which angle one might look at, we had had no choice anyway, just as awesome would not or should not turn away from a bleeding, injured life. We could not look away knowing that in our hands was on the vent that might turn the tide of for India. The revelation of our fathers murder had ignited in us the spark of beginnings that no threat of danger could extinguish. Destiny had brought my family to the crossroads that called for action, and our only choice was to embrace what we had been handed out. All we had to do was remember that beyond fear lies more fear, but beyond that is a little bit of luck, and once you get to that luck, even the worlds of man could be conquered. So, we devoted all our energies into making it possible that the day of the Summer Jubilee Ball would spell out to be the last day of the tyranny otherwise known as the Raj. There were a few weeks still to the ball, after which we were expected to start wrapping up our business at the hotel. Noor ran the hotel furiously, perhaps thinking if she could only keep the flag of Royal Hotel Simla shining high and then use it to bring about the downfall of the establishment that had father murdered, she could in some way make up for their injustice being meted out. The Simla Circle gave us our instructions, separate the viceroys from the rest of the group, hand him over to Guruji, who had been dressed as servant, flee the hotel before Guruji sought the viceroys, and get out of the town with Sood. Taking the viceroys to the bunkers for opium, Sood suggested, is the only way to separate him. It's true. Ratan Babu added. And we would still have Wenger to deal with it. Who will certainly follow him there? We would need to confront them in the bunkers and completely surrounded the viceroys. Despite all this planning, it could go any way. Not if we play it right, son. Not if we play it right. Noor had reservation about what came after the viceroy was killed. Would the government really fall? Would the takeover of Delhi and Calcutta go ahead as planned? And how long before our family would be allowed to see the light of the day? How long before our lives would have a semblance of normalcy again? How long before we could get back our beloved hotel? Afrin turned sniper than usual and spent all her time in finding ways to safeguard the hotel. She hid weapons in the clandestine spots, spent long hours in the forest perfecting her in aim and sketching extremely detailed maps of the hotel that we were ordered to memorize by heart, right down to knowing which were three legs of our three-legged table were still standing so we did not knock it over while running away in a frenzy just in case things go wrong. But maybe nothing will go wrong, I said, trying to calm her down. Afrin patted my head in a way that seemed to suggest that I didn't know the way of the world. Well, it's the big lesson of life, little sister. Things always go wrong. I did not mind memorizing the hotel by heart, for it held memories that came rushing back at the thought of having to leave forever. The servants' halls and passageways were where we played hide and seek, and most and while I often managed to outstrip Noor, a friend would catch me. The staircase at the back was where I had once fallen and broken my knee. Behind the bookcase in the library was the spot where I had hidden for a whole day after Noor had slapped me for not finishing my homework. Out in the gardens, the three of us had spent sunny spring days reading, eating oranges, and being the objects of curiosity of the Simla guest who wondered about the hotel's honors motherless children. As none of our governors ever knew about the bunkers, it had always been a safe spot away from them, although the darkness and dampness inside frightened me. I remembered my father's wide, tired smile whenever he brought us to the hotel. I remembered standing next to him, holding on it to his arm, and a friend on the other side, sullen that she had been made to wear a sari. Most of our relatives had refrained from keeping much contact with us after father had started acting against the British, but I remember them too, looking at us from a distance. Could any of us have anticipated back then the shape of our lives would take? They would be standing in this very spot, singing away from the life of the viceroy and his empire, the empire that had killed our father. As the big day drew closer, a feeling of foreboding settled upon me. Pacing up and down repeatedly was not claiming anybody's nerves, but I could not help doing it. It was not just me, though. Afrin frantically went through her sketches. Ratan Babu's hands stayed balled into fits as he muttered Inqilab under his breath, and Noor recited everything like a maniac. Once again, on the day before the ball, Guruji and Sud went over the orders of event as they should idly happen. Noor will invite the viceroys to the bunkers for opium, the best opium no one can find out on the subcontinent. She will take him down there along with the others who wish to join him. Meanwhile, Nalani will bring me the bunkers. Ratan Babu and I will come in and take hold of viceroys. If bunkers does not step back, we shoot him. If anyone interferes, we get them out of the way too. Then it will be up to me to bring him outside and take him away. Nalini and Noor will lock the rest of the people in the bunkers and quickly make to leave for Sud. During this time, Afrin will be upstairs keeping an eye on the ball. I nodded. This, or of course, will be the ideal plan, Sud said. But for whatever reason, if things don't go to our plan or the guards intervene, we must get the vices in the gallery of room 18. If not the room itself, Guruji will position himself in the gallery if he cannot get to the vices in the bunkers. From there, he will leave the hotel, and then once Guruji is gone in the forest, Ajad Bhai will join me and we will take the vices to the border where the Bhagat Fauj awaits, said Guruji. I will also wait for you four in the forest, but on the other side, Sud said, looking at us, don't wait too long, just a minute, and from there we will immediately make our way through Kasumati Bazaar towards the mountains. Just hearing their words sent goosebumps up my spine, and I wondered how it would feel. Everything is ready, Guruji said, sounding more tender than he ever had. If you carry out the plan tomorrow, we could be waking up to a new India, a free India. It's my life's work. But there is one more thing. Sud asked everyone to gather around him and handed us a little package of clothes. By the texture, its inside could have been rock salt or ground jaggery. Potassium cyanide, he said before any of us had a chance to ask. Caused death between Within a few minutes, I pray to God that nobody needs to use it, but if any of you are in a situation where death seemed better, I held my package in fear, eager to get us as far away from it as soon as possible. Guruji handed me the photograph of him and my father, and I clutched it tightly with hope. The current of karmic justice threatening to catch up with me. Kusali ji set up a dinner for everyone, and we went on to have a rare good evening under the starry night sky. It seemed as if nothing mattered except the moment it at hand. Maybe it was the fact of our last evening at our home, or a glimpse of what life could be, that got me a little sentimental. What if we could spend the rest of our days like this, in love and friendship, beauty and laughter? Ratan Babu hummed a soft tune that was the same as the one Afrin talked about that day when we were hidden inside Bison's residence. Ekla chalo re. He humoured, his voice shy and trembling at first, but gaining confidence as he held Afrin's hand. He was not loud, in fact, he was saying almost in whispers, but I felt the song touch a part of me I did not even know existed, and something in my chest have bringing tears to my eyes. The other seemed to feel much the same as he joined me, joined by clapping along lightly, and I saw more tears and melancholy reflected in my sister's eyes. Noor filled in when Ratan Babu's voice finally broke. जोड़ी सब सुभाई फायर जाए ओरे ओरे ओ भाग्या एकला चलो रे. The moment was heavy and tense, but also relieving. Perhaps we were finally letting ourselves feel the pain that we had denied so well in the tension and excitement of the last days. It was for the first time that I was face to face with the enormity of what we were about to do, of all the consequences it might have. Our father used to sing it all the time, Noor said, a faraway look in her eyes, and I tried to imagine him singing. I could not recall his voice and tried to make it up, wondering how it would crack under the weight of this song. So then Ratan Babu put their arms around each other as Guruji watched them smiling. As the men drank more, they took on the appearance of old comrades in arms who had reunited after several years. They skipped along the room humming. We smiled as we watched them. Sure, they would wake up the entire hotel. Afrin held my hand and we smiled. I held on her hand tightly and prayed to God to give me some of her strength. She was born fearless, just like our father, and I felt like he would be happy, felt like he might be finally proud. Mr. Sood came and sat beside us. So you won't be a part of all the action tomorrow inside the hotel? I asked him. He shook his head. No, I must stay inside, watch our post in town and wait for you. Will Dr. Banerjee also not be at the post tomorrow? Afrin asked. Yes, sure, Sood said, waving his head. But when something must carefully watched, the old idiom is truly accurate. Ek aur 11. My ears rang with his words, and I stared at him. It seemed I had never seen him in this closely before. His beard was scruffy, his eyes starched. The shawl that he wore around himself looked regal. His lips were dry and pursed, his fingers full of rings. I had never realized how husky his voice was, or that he pronounced words in a peculiar accent. I did not feel like smiling anymore. Blackness seemed to take over the room, and a ringing noise played in my ear, refusing to stop. My father's voice began echoing back to me, and I could not imagine him on the board, not a soul inside, fleeing about us as everything exploded and sank. Afrin's hands gripped me, bringing me back. When I looked at her, I saw my fear reflected in her eyes. She had realized in the same moment as I. She knew it. The air suddenly felt chilly, and I felt myself shiver. Sood asked us if we were all right. Just a bit worried about tomorrow, I heard myself answer dryly. There is no need, he said, looking at the sky. It's the start of a big adventure. Don't forget to bring our passport, Mr. Sood. Afrin said. Or do you have them here with you now? He shook his head. No, I will have them tomorrow when we meet in the forest. Afrin nodded. What our names on it? The question seemed to have caught him off guard. What did you say? What our new identities? By what name will we call ourselves? So loud. Strange. I don't remember. I suppose I never opened them to see the names. My mind was so occupied with the procuring them that I never thought to look at them once they were there. Noor came over to us, chiding us for looking so serious. She pulled Afrin and me up and held our hands, kissing each other, each one of us on the cheek, before leaning forward to whisper, Sister, we must be courageous. Perhaps we should head to bed, Noor said, stifling a yawn as we bid everyone goodbye. My heart seemed to be beating 1,000 times a minute, and I had to clutch the wall and steady myself with the dizziness threatened to overcome me. Why do you both look like you just saw our father's ghost? Noor asked, slightly puzzled. What is going on? I could not take it any more and had to sit down on the ground right where I was. Afreen followed me. The past hour had been torture, as Afreen and I refused to leave each other's side and struggled to keep a smile on our face. What's happening? Noor asked more strictly this time, her tone demanding answer. Afreen looked at her. It's Sood. He's the agent, Bison's man. What? Are you talking about Mr. Sood? Yes, my voice was hollow. I cannot believe we missed it. He was right under our nose all the time and... But how do you know? He said. Ek aur 11, Afreen said, quickly explaining how we had heard Bison say exactly the same phrase during the meeting at the chalet. It all makes sense now. Sood is Bison's agent and he has been doing Bison's dirty work, either under threat or more likely to curry favor. I bet Bison's promised him some land or some promotions. Bison wanted the rights and Sood was his man, the one who organized them. This was also why Charles thought he looked familiar. He must have seen him when he would have gone for meeting with Bison's at some point. No two sat down on the floor with us, shocked by the turn of events. But he is loyal to Guruji. He started the movement in Shimla. Noor stammered and said what was on her everybody's mind, trying to make sense of it. Ratan Babu was breathing heavily, and I remembered that he was there too. That he had heard it all. The betrayal of his friend. For him, it was the betrayal of all he had known and trusted and stood for. His eyes were wide and he shivered first in denial and then disappointment. He seemed unable to say a word while our minds raced ahead of us, our hearts still buzzing from the discovery. It does not make sense. He is in the Shimla circle. He is not looking to be a watchdog for the British, Noor said. Yet I know we were right about this. I knew it in my bones. I can't believe it, Ratan Babu finally muttered hoarsely. If that is true, then he must have convinced the servant girl, Beena's parents, to send her off with Iqbal. He must have arranged everything and then spread the rumor that she was kidnapped. Didn't she say that a man brought her to a Lady Sinclair house? That is why he was the one who came to Shimla circle with the news that the Muslims were riling up because he created the riots in the first place. I guessed. He was out that night when Charles had invited me to the club. On the way back in the Tonga, I saw Sood standing near the club. He must have met Bisons that day. He might have even brought along the man I spotted putting up posters. Now it makes sense. He was not very keen to pursue him. What a sneak, exclaimed Afreen. He pretended as if he cared so much about the people that he does not want India to be split up between Hindus and Muslims. But when Bison come in asking for his help, but why? Noor asked, shaking her head. By killing the viceroys, India will be rid of the British. Why would he be loyal to Bison now? Perhaps he owns him a debt, or maybe he was forced, or... Afreen, Ratan Babu interrupted. This means that Sood is not Guruji's man. If Sood is Bison's agent, this means the Bisons know everything about what we are about to do. He knows that Guruji plans to kill the viceroys tomorrow. I clapped my hand to my mouth, the enormity of it all sinking in. Everything that the Shimla circle had planned, killing the viceroys, the cop in Delhi, Bombay, Lahore, it would fall apart. Sood knew everything, Ratan said. He is Guruji's second in command in Shimla, more trusted than anyone. He had helped the Shimla circle build its foundation here in town. It is because of Sood that they have even survived so far, and yet he never got any passport or identities made. Afreen said, he does not have them. He does not have anything for us. I asked him and he clearly didn't know our new identities. There is nothing to save us after the ball tomorrow. The more I heard, the more my heart crushed into 1,000 pieces. I looked at the others, whose faces were as full of despair as mine. But then why haven't they arrested us yet? Noor asked. Silence followed her question. If Bison knew the whole plan, why even let us get on this far? The very floor on which I sat seemed fragile, threatening to give out at any moment and swallow us in a vortex of pain and death. I saw Noor's expression change from confusion to one of hope. If they knew that the viceroy is going to be killed tomorrow, she said, we would not be standing here. Our hearts sound and healthy. So you think that Sood did not tell Bison he is playing us both? Ratan Babu seemed thoughtful, but Afreen seemed to have cracked it. I don't think so. No, my bet is Bison knew and wants this to happen. Didn't we hear that he wants the top job? Well, maybe Bison wants us to get rid of the viceroy so he can step in and prove his calibre. He will take the viceroy's place by stopping a revolutionary cop, and the only way to stop it would be to let it happen in the first place, let it go out of the hand a bit, and then step in to save the day. That's mighty big risk to take, but worth it for his career if it works out, right? The man who saved India from happening, he will be here at the ball but not Ripon, so he can be at the center of it. Take all the credit. He will tell Lord Ripon that the army has to be brought in and Ripon will have to concede. Bison's prepared for war. If he wins, India is his. If he loses almost nothing. No one will know his plan. What Afreen just made complete sense, but shattered reality as we knew it. All this were true. Everything and nothing was happening as we had planned it. I can't believe it. Noor's eyes were shell-shocked. All this time, we thought we were playing them, when instead Bison was the one playing us, with Sood as his ally. I got up suddenly and struck by a memory. Remember when they did not stop our wagons at the border? I knew that the guard had been seen the guns inside. From the way he looked at me, he had obviously been instructed by Bison or maybe Sood, I don't know, to let us pass through. They wanted us to be able to have opinions, to let us go ahead with the plan. Good, good. No, take a deep breath. They will shoot us as soon as the voice is dead. Immediately, no warning, no chance of escape, no going back. I didn't know I was shivering until Afreen hugged me from the side. Tears rolled down my face. I didn't want to lose this. I didn't want to lose her or Noor or Ratan Babu, my family, my life, this hotel, the town. She thumped my back until I calmed down and regained control. What if we just don't know anything tomorrow and let the ball go on as a regular ball? Afreen asked. Leading the voices to Guruji is in our hands, and if we don't do that, nothing happens. Noor shook her head immediately. No, it does not work like that. Now that they know there is no going back, Bison could planned out about us at any moment, and they would be arrested no matter what. If they find any proof that we were involved and in the plan, it would not matter if we commit the crime or not. He could have sued testify against us, and we would done for all of us. The fact is, we only got this far because Bison, already knowing about it, decided not to crack down on us. No, if we back out, we still have to leave town immediately. This is it. Silence followed her pronouncement. How the evening had changed. The songs we had sang earlier, Arm in Arm, seemed like a distant dream. Well played, Sood, Ratan Babu said furiously. I had called him my brother. We can neither move forward nor back out, doomed either way. They were right. Sood had us well and good here. Even if we went up to him now, locked him up, or threatened him, or even killed him, Bison already was privy to our plans. I still could not believe that Bison was willing to sacrifice the life of the viceroy for his ambitious. Bison was betraying his boss, just as Sood was betraying his poor Guruji, trusting Sood with all his heart. Ratan Babu decided that it was too volatile now to tell anybody else in the Shimla circle, not even Guruji, who knew Sood was acting alone. We have to do something, Afrin said. Our lives are threatened. Our hotel is threatened. India's freedom is threatened. Moreover, none of this changes the fact they killed our father in a similar conspiring way. I'm not sure what you are suggesting. How can we go ahead with the ball tomorrow knowing that we will almost certainly be shot at the end of it? I asked. Then they won't kill us if the viceroy is alive. Remember, Bison wants to get rid of the viceroy before putting his plan into action, she said. So the whole point of the ball is to kill him, not keep him alive. Minute passed by as we sat, wondering, debating, assuming, until Noor interrupted us with a suggestion. There is one more person who would be interested in this information, who would perhaps even have some other information we could use. Who could possibly figure a way out for us. Let's summon Begum Jan. Nalani, hand me that photograph that Guruji gave you. There is one more thing I want to see. Call Khushali ji. एक्ट 4 भाई बहुत बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग टाइम पे आ गया है. मतलब क्या बताऊँ. चलो मैं आपके लिए आगे पढ़ती हूँ. बट बहुत सही, मतलब वर्ड्स नहीं मिल रहे हैं यार. इट्स लाइक अ थ्रिलर कि मतलब बीसन्स जो है वो इन लोगों के साथ खेल रहा है फ्रॉम द स्टार्ट, एंड दे डिडंट इवन नो अबाउट Sood and about anything. They were, he was like playing with all of them, and they were acting like a doll. कठपुतली, वो सब कठपुतली थे बीसन के, और उनको पता भी नहीं चला यार. चलो देखते हैं आगे क्या होता है. The day of the summer jubilee ball unfurled with the clear sky that promised plenty of sunshine, the soft hum of daybreak, and the sweet, courageous smell of Shimla, my town. I opened the windows. It would be the last time I gazed at this breathtaking sunrise, the last time I inhaled its fine, fresh air, the last time I would be calling this place my home. I wished to extend my arms and take the valley into an embrace, but I need not worry, for its hills and its splendor would far outlive me, and the comfort of that knowledge would stay with me forever. Despite how the day was about to turn out, I felt light-headed and free, as if I had been carrying a burden all this while and had finally found release. Standing next to me, Afrin clutched my hand, and its clasp was almost soulful, full of promise. There are not many people in the world who held such power in their hands as we did that morning, and now that power and its burdens were upon us, we hope to God we did it right by it. To ensure that nothing amiss was noticed, the summer jubilee ball had to be exactly as it had been in the past years. Canopies of white and pale pink roses were nestled in vines and trailing plants all around the hotel to intensify the feeling of summer. The windows were ornamented with the beautiful creams drapes held together by strings, dories designed especially for the Royal Hotel Shimla. Several chairs and footstools were added in the lobby, which was the center of buzz and activity as the servants dressed in their best liveries today hurried about. Even the grimy fireplace had been cleaned up by the valiant efforts to the smallest of servants who had accessed its innermost niches and removed the ash that was years old. The ballroom looked the finest of all. The floor had been polished so that it shone merely. Our most prized painting and stripes were uncovered and displayed in their full glory, adoring the walls in bursts of color. The seven chandeliers gleamed in their glassy brilliance, and at night they would be alight with hundreds of candles. The oil lamps in the corner were ready to cast a huge glow as the light night would progress, and the room would be decorated by the sparkly dresses of the ladies and the elegant white ties of men. At the back would stand a band composed of violin, harp, clarinet, and bassoon player. You understand everything, Kusaliji? Noor asked him quietly as chaos took over the premises. Kusaliji wrinkled, aged-faced, boasted a contradictory vitality. He smiled, and I felt a rush of emotion for him, this old man who had spent so much of his life serving in our father's enterprise, quietly running the show, even after our father was gone, accepting our changes with love and respect. Much more than you give me credit for, Saiba, he replied. I knew all along that you are your father's daughter. One can plan all that they like, but the courage of our life has been charted long ago. All one can do is embark on the one's path and attend to it with grace. I smiled. Remember this moment, Khusaliji, Afrin said. Guruji arrived not long after as a hired hand for the day, unable to stop himself from hissing instructions when he would pass us by. Khusaliji had told the servant that he was a special bolter trained in Calcutta and was here to supervise the ball. Guruji from his side emerged a changed man. Out of his khadi attire, his turban tied neatly, his beard shaved to its grain, dressed impeccably in the footman's uniform, wearing clean white gloves, and while he had expressed revolution at the idea of bowing and serving champions to the very people that he wanted to remove from the face of the earth. Now that the moment of reckoning had arrived, he seemed to be quite in character, eager to play the role to its perfection. He greeted and bowed convincingly and mastered the art of skillful holding out a tray full of stamped glass filled to their brim. I spent the morning in the ballroom with Noor, dictating instructions where the servant would go, where the guests would stand, and where the chairs would be placed, how the champagne and wine were to be served when the younger ones wanted to dance wilder, and when the band should play faster jet tunes. The viceroy's preferences were played to the staff, and only Kusaliji was to serve him. Afrin paid special attention to the dinner, making sure it was prepared for perfection, refusing to come out the kitchen for anything. I looked around for the ballroom, the ghost of past dances in front of my eyes, fully aware that soon it would be simply occupied with the jingle of jewelry and the soft tapping of feet on wood. I wondered what our father would make of the ball and its preparation, about what we set out to do. My body uttered between states of action and paralysis as the day went by, until Afrin finally called out to Noor and I. It was time to get ready. We took out our mother's sari, the one she had stitched as a part of her dowry when she married to our father. Noor joined us and we took turns pinning the drapes on our perfection. Noor wore a pale pink sari that brought out the color in her cheeks. Afrin chose a deeper blue one, looking freshly beautiful and caring. I, on the other hand, wore a brilliant red, so bright I could have been a Hindu bride. We sat together and said a little prayer, holding on to our Farohar pendants, knowing that we needed all the strength and luck we could get on this day. I'm going to get the maid to do my hair one more time. I don't like it, Afrin said. Again, I was annoyed because I had just spent 15 minutes braiding flowers into her hair exactly the way Afrin wanted it. Noor reached over and flicked Afrin's hair. This secret to go a good day is beautiful hair. Did your mother never teach you that? I must have looked back weak, for Afrin kept her hand on mine and said, fervently and honestly, as she always did, some quests are worth it, even if they are bound to fail. If courage in the face of odds was not enough to shake a nation, it did not know what would be. The wooden floor tapped and cracked melodiously under our feet as we went back and forth between the floor and the ballroom. It smelled of polished wood, or freshly lighted candles, of flowers and perfumed dresses. It spelled of hope and fortune and prayer. The glass chandeliers were light up, gleaming crystal flutes were laid out on our silver trays, and footmen in livid uniform stood smart and ready to serve. A long red carpet had been rolled out from the foyer step to the main gates, right outside where the carriages would stop. The guests began arriving. Kusaliji stood at the main door, welcoming and bowing, taking coats and scarves as they slid smoothly off their backs. Most of them were stylish, backless, and straps gowns, dressed up for one of the more exciting Simla evenings. Balls, after all, were one of the best places of dalliance and even proposals. Men, accompanied in their white waistcoat and bow ties, their hands in their pocket as their tailcoat trailed them, looking around the hotel. More guests arrived, and I ticked off the names of the more prominent ones with ease. Sir James Harris and the Baron of Chairs were already here, their laughing voice booming across the room. A little way off was Sir Philip Ramsden, a captain in the Royal Navy. He had a sharp look, and I made a note to keep an eye on him. Lord Richard Gaunt and Lord John Biggs, looking similarly excited for an evening of merrymaking. We waited by the door, and I greeted everyone, trying not to let my nervousness show, folding my hands and smiling a lot. Noor would be the one to talk, and there, in the background, I tried to quieten my frazzled mind. At times, my heart thudded so fast, I wondered if they could see it through my sardine. I bawled like this one was the intimidating event in the best of times, but this evening was supposed to change the course of Indian history. When I caught sight of the door next, the world around me came to a standstill. Between the low hum of the music, the frill of elegant dresses, the trace of perfume that lingered in the air, the obvious men that hung above us, and the promises of an event, eventful night, walked in Charles, standing tall in his diner jacket, his hair swept back, Eliza May on his arm. Our eyes met. My heart stopped as I watched him walk towards us, and this time I was in no doubt that his eyes were only for me, and in them was everything that I hoped for and feared, loved and mistrust, and a cold determination that refused to look away. He had come to keep an eye on us. He suspected something would happen, and instead of betraying us, he decided he would come and stop it. I had to blink several times to push back the tears that rose to my eyes. That foolish man, although I stopped myself from shaking before he reached us. I knew that Charles could see it. There was not much I could hide from him anymore. Once he had touched me and known me, the memories of that night came rushing to me, and I pushed away the other thoughts that accompanied it, for I could hardly afford to break down right now. Charles greeted my sister and Ratan Babu, keeping his eyes averted from mine, but when he finally approached me, it was everything I could do not fling my arms around him. How do you do, Miss Mistry? He asked, his voice polite, reassuring. I looked up at him, but now that he was so close, I could not get past this mask that he had put on. So intent was I on reading his face that I greeted him and completely forgot Eliza beside him, until Afrin nudged me and I caught out a hasty wish. You look very beautiful, he said, and I gazed down at the sari that I wore. The red sari that had felt beautiful earlier suddenly seemed to be a symbol of my decay. With some ruby red slippers. You could almost play Dorothy, he said. Now with a smile, I had to smile back too. She was always right. There is no place like home. His eyes lingered on me for a couple of seconds before he turned to Eliza and walked on. I looked at Afreen, sick with Bertie. She held my hand. What are you afraid of? That Charles would not just find out about my big betrayal, but he might see it in action. That it would leave no doubt in his mind that I had used his friendship, his company, and his love for an agenda that threatened his very existence in Simla in the world. Courage, sister, Afrin said. Let nothing falter in you in your goal. I found this courage in the next moment when Lord Beeson entered the fair, a smug look on his face. He arrived with a Lord Fraser and barely glanced at us as he walked past. I had to marvel at how he conducted himself. If he ever made it to Hollywood, he would be the finest actor in the world. He held his hands behind his back, looking around likely commanding on what could be done with the hotel once we were forced to give it up. And finally the Viceroy arrived. The music stopped and a hush fell over the foyer, preparing for his entrance. His wife was next to him, a musy little creature looking around with distaste, and behind them was likely Wenger. At first glance, Wenger did not seem as menacing as Guruji had made him out to be. He was a head shorter than a Viceroy and not particularly muscular, but looking at him gave me the chills. He had hard, said Joe, disclaiming eyes and a disputive ease about him that made me want to create as much distance between us as possible. When they reached us, my sister and I bent forward in practiced courtesy. Welcome to the Royal Hotel Simla, Your Excellency, Noor said. It is our real honor to have you with us tonight. Pleasure to be here, he said briskly. He was so tall it felt if he was born to be viceroy, for he could literally look down on people. Guruji arrived with a tray of champagne glass. As the viceroy took a glass from the tray, he did not even look in the direction of where Guruji stood. Could Guruji believe it himself? The man that he dreamed of killing was against all odds within inches of him, that he had just taken a drink from his hand. Fate was a funny thing, and all of us would see it rear its ugly head tonight. Thankfully, Wagner did not seem to exhibit any suspicious being about Guruji, and I breathed in relief once they had crossed us. There are 3 guards outside, Noor whispered to her. 2 inside and Wagner. There could be a couple near his car perhaps, or 3. I will ask Khusaliji to check. Now that the Pisces was here, the ball could formally begin. I spotted Lady Sinclair amongst a group of guests, her back turned to the Viceroy, standing straight and stiff, while the others' eyes all followed the Viceroy. She looked away pointedly. I went up to greet her. It was important she stayed in a good mood, and even more important, she stayed in the right mood. Noor came up behind me and whispered, "You have to be open the ball with the Viceroy." Me? Why? I can't. Nalini, you must. His wife does not want to. And as the host, we are next in line. You are the most natural choice among us, being the youngest, and you dance the best. There was no chance for me to give in to fear. Once the Viceroy had emptied his glass, most people backed off, leaving the space where he stood clear. I walked towards him, slowly, looking a lot more comfortable than I felt. My shoes were the only thing in the room that made any sound. He was much taller than me, and he held out his hand as I extended mine. From so close, I could count his freckles and see that his eyes were green and grey. The Viceroy smiled, and I smiled back. The dance had begun. The opening voltage was the blue down, and the Viceroy kept his head high as we moved in formal tandem, performing for those around us. He cast a sweeping look at the guests who surrounded us. He looked down on me and said quietly, "Do you know the first choral version of this voltage was written when Austria lost the war in the last century with Persia? They will lose again. And so will you." I wanted to say, but he would know it soon enough. "Why, Miss Mystery, you not just look like, but also dance like a proper lady," he said. I smiled nervously, as if flattered, and said whatever I thought would make him feel important. I told him he looked so handsome and intimidating I could barely sleep all night, knowing I would have to be up here dancing with him, that I had always admired the British and their ways, and how India could not possibly manage on its own. There was a hopeful rush in my voice, and I could see that it was working. As his gaze grew more and more indulgent, his touch now light and smooth. Instead of stiffness it held before. Indians are not without their charms. However, he said, almost in a whisper. Leaning forward, I caught a glimpse of Charles on the edge of the dance floor, watching us closely. "I have heard about something gatherings you have here in the hotel with some very quality storytelling. You will have a chance to find out yourself, sir," I said, glad that he was making our job tonight easier. Our father indeed produced quality product, and the best opinion is bound to bring out the best story. The temptation of both are not to be missed, sir. He smiled as the voltage finished, and I bent forward in a custody, turning around to see Charles waiting for me, his arm already extended for the next dance. "May I?" He seemed determined, staring at me intensely, as if it would help him find out all the secret, all that I had kept hidden since he had last seen me. I looked around the ballroom and saw that most eyes followed the Vice's and accepted Charles' hand. He pulled me up close, and we began moving to the soulful turns of the next voltage. He kept a respectable distance, his chin above my head, but the parts of me he did hold grazed under his touch, and I was afraid that even above all the music and noise he would hear my cowardly heart. "I told you not to come back here again," I said softly, smiling but tilting my head up so I could look into his eyes. He ignored my insinuation. "What are you up to, Nalini? Do you have any idea how dangerously close you are going to get caught? Sorry, close you are to getting caught." He didn't know, I was sure of that. He didn't know about Bison's plan, or ours for the matter, but I still did not want him to be here and bear witness to all this, so I pleaded with him again. "Go back home, please. Just leave me alone." He looked at me urgently. "I found something." Guruji suddenly appeared with a tray his hand bore. "Thank you," I said politely, ready to return to my conversation with the Charles, waiting for Guruji to leave, but Eliza turned up right at his heel. There was no more that I could say to Charles in the presence of these two, so I was about to excuse myself to look for my sister, but Eliza spoke up. "Wait," she turned to Guruji. "Nalani, your servant, he looks a bit familiar." Guruji continued, looking at his feet, but I could see his fingers tense around the tray. I stole a look at Charles, who was also staring at him intensely. I wondered if I could somehow spill some of my drink on Eliza, distract her, but she was at distance from me, and Charles would definitely notice any such deliberate action. She was still staring at Guruji with a perplexed look on her face, and just when I thought she would push away, the matter realization seemed to hit her. "I remember now. You were at Lady Sinclair's house, were not you? You came to meet her servant girl. That's when Lady Sinclair saw you. Is your daughter or your wife, perhaps?" "Not at all," I burst out, trying not to let my panic show that Eliza had recognized Guruji in front of Charles, but my suspicions were confirmed. "Guruji had met Veena." "That's ridiculous. Why would his daughter live at Lady Sinclair's house, away from her family?" "No, he has never been married. That's why he works here." Seeing my offense, Eliza immediately backed off. I apologized. "I must have been mistaken." "Yes," I replied, coldly, and dismissed Guruji. But the act seemed not to have worked on Charles, whose eyes followed Guruji's retreat. I must see to my guest, I announced before turning away. It was a stupid idea to let Guruji serve at the ball. The summer jubilee ball was in full swing, the colorful dresses swishing about on the floor, and private conversation squeezed in the middle of the voltage as the woman laughed and the man laid. I tried to find no to tell her what had happened, but she found me first. We are going down, she whispered quickly. Down? Huh? The bunkers, he wants it now. The guards will stay behind in the ballroom. Wenger is with him. I nodded as she meant the opinion. See to Sinclair, place her close to the bunker. Ratan Babu and I alone will not be able to take on Wagner. She is the only person who can separate Wenger from him. With that, Noor left me. Afrin and Ratan Babu were occupied with the Baron and Captain Ramstan, and I helped to excuse Ratan Babu so that he could follow the others to the bunker. Then I looked around the room for Lady Sinclair. Panic descended on me when she was nowhere to be seen. The moment of reckoning was approaching, and my target had been avoided because I failed to pay attention. The Vice's wife sat at the table with a pursed sleeve and a glass of wine she clung onto for her dear life. Her husband was already on his way to the bunkers. Lord Bison's tall, slimy figure from the other end of the room seemed to close in on me. I imagined his fingers thickening around our throats, choking me and my sister to death as Charles laughed boomingly from the back. I felt the ballroom in a state of disarray, looking around the fair. But there were only 2 or 3 people there, talking in low voice. Sahiba, anything wrong? Kosaliji found me in my state of decomposure. I looked at him helplessly. Have you seen a woman wearing a blue dress, blonde hair, probably looking angrily? There was a woman who left just now, he said, looking towards the door. I bolted across the garden as fast as I could, and sure enough, there she stood, waiting for her carriage. Lady Sinclair. She turned around, caught in surprise, wiping her tear-spotted face. She had been trembling slightly, but stood stiff when she saw it. It was me, her expression turning cold. Lady Sinclair looked away again as I walked closer, her chin up. Is everything all right? Of course. Why would not it be? She answered without looking at me, and even someone who did not know about her feeling for the Vices would have been able to detect the hurt in her voice. In a few seconds, her carriage would be here, and gone would be the opportunity for us to get the Viceries on his own. The 2 guards stood in the garden looking at us. I took a chance. It's the Viceries, isn't it? She was shocked, and the fact that she could not hide it gave it all away. There was anger, offense, and betrayal all at once in her eyes, but she turned away again. How dare you talk to me like that? Don't walk away now, my lady, I said. You will just show them that they won, his wife and him. You can't let them win. You have to give everything to this, my lady. What then? She asked me in sudden moment of despair. I can't see, can't stand to be ignored like this when. A sob escaped her involuntarily, and sudden idea seized me. You should not have to believe. You should be in there with all eyes on you and let him just see you in your glory, enjoying the ball. Let's get the attention back to you, I offered. How? What do you mean? Lady Sinclair, have you ever worn a sari? After a few minutes of posing, encouraging her that the sari would suit her figure, that it would be an outrageous thing to do, that exactly what she needed, that she would stand out in the crowd and all eyes would be on her, she agreed. The guards outside were still in position, and on re-entering the hotel, I looked the doors from out inside. This started the clock. If the guards noticed that the doors were locked, the alarms would immediately be raised. I had to get Lady Sinclair to the bunkers first. We went through the foyer and to my room, where I threw open all my saris to her and asked her to pick one, praying to God that it would work. When she chose a pink floor one, I told her it was wonderful and asked one of the maids I could find to dress her. I waited outside the room, my heart palpitating as the ticking of the clock weighed on my head. I wondered where the others were, how it was going, if the Viceroy was in position, if everybody was. I clutched the outside of the wall, dizziness overcoming me. I had to steady myself. I would not do for me to faint right now. I remembered what I had recently found out, what I had not told my sister about, and shook my head to forget that thought. When I looked up again in a stroke of what could only be irony, Charles stood a few steps away from me. I knew something was wrong immediately. As he did not move, he stood rooted to his spot. His eyes looked hollow and his body stiff. I took a step towards him, but in a swift moment, he had taken out a gun and now held it in my direction. If not directly at me, my breath caught in my throat. Something is going on, he said, moving forward, the gun raised skillfully. I can smell it. Tell me, Nalini, what is going on? Where did you take Lady Sinclair? I knew he would not leave us now. Even if the Lady Sinclair come out and he saw nothing fishy going on, he would scare her. He would not let us be alone again, and definitely would not let us go near the Vices. I had to try to get him to put the gun down before Lady Sinclair came out. Charles, calm down. You will alarm our guest. I know that man you had as a waiter. I had seen him about in the city. Eliza was right. Where did he go? Is your hotel being inflated? My heart beat faster, panicking. Answer me right now. The security of the Vices is under threat. He suddenly stopped mid-sentence. The pronunciation of this fact giving him ideas. His eyes went wide, and I don't know what Charles would have done if Afreen had not arrived from the back, using all the strength she could muster to hit him on the head. His last look was on the one of shock and betrayal. I rushed towards him, catching his head before it could hit the ground, tears streaming down my face. Afreen whispered fiercely, telling me I could not fall pieces over him. I looked at her in anger, but when I saw her impatient face, I knew that even though he meant more to me than my own life, he did not even more to me than the lives of my sister. Nalini, is everything all right? Lady Sinclair's voice called out from the room. In alarm, I got up and blotted the room from the outside. I yelled out, everything was fine. Take care of Charles, I told Afreen. We can't bring Lady Sinclair out right now, so let her remain in there. But I'll try to get the vices here away from the bunkers and lie to Lady Sinclair that the door is stuck. I grabbed Charles' gun before sprinting off. I heard voice as I got closer to the bunkers, even laughing noise. So at least I was assured that our cover was not yet blown. Noor, standing closest to the doors, saw me immediately, her face showing concern when she did not see Lady Sinclair, but I nodded at her, signaling to the viceries. Noor went up to the viceries, whispering something quietly. I patiently waited outside, and at some point he emerged, looking irritated. I immediately looked down. What is it? It's Lady Sinclair, Your Excellency, I said softly. See, she is not feeling well and requests your presence. What have I got to do with her? I kept my head down. She feels faint. Sir, she has been vomiting and entrusted me to let you know. She said it's important. Then inform her family. What do I have to do with it? She says she's pregnant, sir, I whispered. He was furious, I could tell, but radiated himself to follow me. He signaled to Wagner to remain in the room, and I walked slower now. I just had to get the vices out of the bunkers before Guruji, but thinking of Guruji made me dizzy again and my step fluttered. Why had not either of my sister or Ratan Babu turned up behind us yet? What's going on? Are you fine? I heard the voices talking over me, but it was too late. I felt the world blur around me and my legs were not solid anymore. He caught me before I could slide down the stair, for which, despite the political circumstances, I would be forever grateful. I willed myself to stay conscious for the sake of all that I knew and loved. As the voices paused, I held on the wall to steady myself. He bent closer, stinking of tobacco and opium and alcohol, and it made me squirm. Are not you the one Nyler likes? Charles' name brought me back to life, and in the sum of moment, Noor followed. The voices stepped away. What's going on? Noor asked. Your sister almost passed out. The voices burst out, sounding indignant. I don't know what she was trying to manage, perhaps trying to seduce me. Does she think that all Englishmen would fall in love with her? Sir, there must be a mistake. She would never. Why would she not? That's exactly what women of your kind do. Blood rushed to my ears as I heard this pathetic old man shout, and what happened next would be justified in the pages of the history till the end of time. I took Charles' gun and thrust into the viceroy's belly so he would feel it, pushing him back against the wall. The gesture seemed to have knocked all at the air and speech out of him, for he breathed loudly, looking at me and Noor in shock. We stood that way for a few seconds, perhaps even minutes, as I savored the moment. How many people in the world had the sweet chance of pointing the nozzle of a gun into the belly of Kalwa's head of an empire? Whoa, whoa, whoa. We both ignored him as Noor finally accepted what I had done. I could not stand it. His lies. This man. I know, Noor said. She held the vice's arms together, pulling and twisting them as he withered in agony. He tried shouting for help before I poked him with the gun again. We heard footsteps approaching us. It was Guruji. On seeing the vice's compromise, he began laughing, his arms in the air, looking almost maniacally. He threw Noor a piece of rope and she used it to tie the vice's hands. Guruji came forward, laughing some more, trembling with excitement. What's happening? The vice stuttered. It's funny how the fear of one's life can render even the most eloquent man to a pitiful mess. The hotel is under siege, Your Excellency, Guruji said, with the delight of madman. What does it mean? It means you are out. You are our hostage, sir, Noor said calmly. I turned to Guruji then, knocking his gun out of his hands, which Noor caught smoothly. I pointed my own gun at him, aiming clearly. And so are you. भाई बहुत बहुत इंटेंस मोमेंट पे आ गया है यार. मैं क्या बताऊँ आपको बताने की ज़रूरत ही नहीं, क्योंकि अगर आप ये वीडियो देख रहे तो आप समझ पा रहे हैं कि मैं किस बात की बात कर रही हूँ. मतलब कैसा पॉइंट आ गया कि चार्ल्स जो है वो पॉइंट आउट करके खड़ा है नरनी की तरफ गन, और वो मोमेंट जब वो मैं लाइन पढ़ी थी, मतलब क्या बताऊँ मैं आपको, बहुत बहुत इंटेंस मोमेंट. इट्स लाइक अ मूवी, द सेम मूवी द राजी, वेयर सी पुट द गन ऑन विकी कौशल, बट द रोल हैज़ चेंज्ड हेयर. द चार्ल्स इज़ पुटिंग द गन डाउन ऑन नलिनी, बट बीच में उनकी सिस्टर आ जाती है और वो उनको बेहोश कर दे रहे हैं कुछ टाइम के लिए. वो रो भी रही है, उसको समझ नहीं आ रहा कि मैं अपने देश के लिए करूँ या प्यार के लिए लड़ूँ। मतलब वो पूरी तरह से कन्फ्यूज़्ड है, लेकिन वो कदम किसकी तरफ ले रही है? अपने देश के लिए, अपने देश के लिए वो कर रही है ये सारी चीज़ें। और ये जो लास्ट में आए कि वहाँ पे गुरुजी आ रहे हैं और वो बोल रहे हैं कि ये क्या कर दिया, वो बांध रहे हैं। लेकिन यहाँ पे ये मोमेंट आया कि जो नूर है वो पॉइंट आउट कर रही है गन गुरुजी की तरफ। सो हम देखते हैं कि आगे क्या होने वाला है। और बहुत बहुत सही चल रहा है यार। बस आप लोग वीडियो में बने रहें और सब्सक्राइब करें। ये बुक ना, मतलब मैंने ललन स्वीट्स पढ़ी है, वंस अपॉन अ कर्फ्यू पढ़ा है, दोनों में है थोड़ा सा एक्शन, लेकिन जो एक्शन इसमें है ना, मतलब एक्ट 2 से जो शुरू हुआ है, एक्ट फर्स्ट तक नॉर्मल चल रहा था, बातें चल रही हैं, प्लान चल रहा है, लेकिन एक्ट 2 के बाद जो चल रहा है, फिर एक्ट 3 में और बढ़ गया, और एक्ट 4 जो मैं पढ़ रही इसमें और इंटेंस बढ़ गया है। मतलब कि हर पार्ट में इंटेंस बढ़ रहा है, एक्शन बढ़ रहा है, और जो हो रहा है, एक्शंस हो रहे हैं, जो सिचुएशन है वहाँ पे, आई कांट एक्सप्लेन। बस अब वीडियो में बने रहे। थैंक्स फॉर वॉचिंग, और प्लीज़ अपना कमेंट करें फेवरेट बुक, एंड प्लीज़ सब्सक्राइब भी कर लेना यार। आपके लिए इतनी मेहनत कर रही हूँ मैं, बुक ला रही हूँ कहाँ से। सो प्लीज़ डोंट फॉरगेट।